Hey guys, my name is Neel and welcome to Neel Workshop Zone. So in this episode we will be learning more about flowcharts. So in the previous episodes we talked about flowcharts. If you haven't checked it out then let me take one of those episodes. We have also talked about data structures and algorithms, so if you're interested in that, I do recommend checking them out. But in this episode we will be talking about the types of flowcharts, its disadvantages and even an example on how a simple flowchart works. So without further ado, let's talk about it. So there are mainly three types of flowcharts and they are very simple. So you have process flowchart, data flowchart and business flowchart. We'll get back to business in a bit, but first let's talk about process flowchart. So what is process flowchart? Well, process flowchart basically shows us all the steps taken in designing a product, as the name suggests. And if you're designing a product, you usually use process flowcharts to kind of map down the major and minor parts of the flowchart. So this is mainly used in companies to when they're trying to present a product and they're trying to explain about this product, they usually use a process flowchart to kind of explain the major parts of the process and also the minor parts. And next, as the name suggests, you have data flowcharts, which basically tells us about data and how it can be divided. And we usually use data flowcharts when we're working with the depth of programming. So when you're working with a lot of program-related stuff and you want to picture it diagrammatically or pictographically, you can use data flowcharts. And we also have business flowcharts, which I've separated. It's actually not business flowcharts, it's actually a bit more bigger than that. It's a business processing modeling program, or you can also call it as business processing modeling flowchart. So what business processing modeling flowchart does is, again, as the name suggests, it helps us to do flowcharts about business modeling and stuff related to business modeling. So these are the three types of flowcharts, and I know that there isn't much to talk about it, but that is how flowcharts are divided into. Now let's talk about disadvantages of flowcharts. So what are the major disadvantages of flowcharts? So we have talked about the advantages in the previous episode, but we haven't talked about the disadvantages of flowcharts. So what are some of the major disadvantages of flowcharts? Well, one of the major disadvantages is that it's hard to fit in details in flowcharts. So flowcharts can only give you the surface level concept of how the program works, but won't give you the details regarding that. And second of all, it is hard to draw or just determine big and complex programs in terms of flowcharts, because it will become very hard for that to happen, and it's also very hard to reproduce and even remodify, because when you're working with flowcharts, changing a small thing could change the entire flow of the program. So it is very hard to kind of change something when you're working with flowcharts. So those are, I would say, some of the disadvantages that you face when you're working with flowcharts. So now let's take a simple example and learn how a flowchart can be written. So let me chalk this really quick. So let us write a flowchart on how to tell if a number is an even number or an odd number. So you first start with oval, which again we have talked about in previous episodes. We will have an end, and the main part of this flowchart would obviously be the parallelograms. So we'll draw a parallelogram, and in this parallelogram we will write something like let us just write input A and B, right? So let us take in two variables which we'll use in this, and let's draw a hexagon. It's not a hexagon, it's a diamond. So if A is greater than B, so if A is greater than B, or we'll just write if A percentage 2. Okay, so we'll just write if A is percentage 2, and we'll write another parallelogram. If A is percentage 2, then A is even. We just end here, and if no, then A is on. Let's draw some arrow marks so that we know how the program works. And this is how a basic flowchart works. This is the main process of how a flowchart can be written as. So now let us take the same concept of flowchart and let us write a flowchart for something else. Let us write a flowchart for, like I written a little bit before, let us write a flowchart for how to tell if a number is, let's see, how to say if a number is greater than yellow. So let us take two numbers or two variables, A and B. If A is greater than B, A is greater, and if A is not greater than B, then B is greater, and you can run this. So this is how a simple flowchart works. And flowchart does get complicated, but like I've said in the previous episodes, we talked about how a flowchart can be written as and how it can be represented. So usually when you're working with it, you usually just input the variables and you use all the different shapes, which definitions I have mentioned in the previous episode, and you just make a flowchart. So this is how flowcharts are made. There are three flowcharts, and yeah, this is basically the gist of flowcharts. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out any new videos. And that's all folks, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.